In this video, I'm going to give an introduction to operations management, and I'll also go over the topics that we will be covering in this course this semester. I'm not going to go over each and every slide in the PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to be focusing on the important aspects and concepts covered in the chapter. So we'll start with a brief definition of what production, or sometimes called operations management, is all about. So operations management is a set of activities that create value in the form of goods and services. It creates goods and services, okay, taking a set of inputs and transforming those inputs into output. So production can be thought of as this transformation process which takes input and converts that input into output of added value. Now, any company will have three basic functions: marketing, production, and finance and accounting. There are subsidiary functions that are crucial for the essential functions to be fulfilled, like HR and information technology and so on. Now here are some examples of what tasks are covered in each of these three essential areas: operations, finance, and marketing. This is a commercial bank, and you can go over the list of tasks in each category. Another example is an airline company, and what are the tasks in the three essential functions. And manufacturing company, what are the tasks involved in the three essential functions. Now we can, when we take this link of a transformation that takes input and transforms the input into output, we can think of a chain of these links as a supply chain. And when we think of supply chain in production management, we are talking about a chain that starts from raw materials and goes all the way to the end product being sold to our customers. So if we take an example like this, we have a farmer who again produces, takes input and produces output, which forms the raw materials. So that's the raw material stage. And you have the second link. Again, this is a production link where it takes input from the farmer. The farmer's output forms the input for this link, and it produces output. And this output becomes input for this link in the supply chain. And those inputs are transformed into output, and so on until we get to the final stage where there is input and then the output is satisfaction of customer needs. So you can think of a supply chain as a series of links, and each link being a production unit, taking input, transforming it into output. Supply chains can sometimes be owned by the company. That is, the entire supply chain may be owned by the company, one company, or it could be different companies serving different links in the chain. Now, why do we study operations management? Because operations management is an essential function, one of the three essential functions, so actually we want to study that. And also, as you would see in the next slide, that operations management involves activities that have a direct link to a major part of the cost of a company. So if you look at this slide, where suppose in this example we assume that this is the current situation. We have a sales of $100,000 and we have cost of goods and gross margin, tax rate of 25%. We end up with a contribution, annual contribution of $10,500. Now if you look at marketing function, if we increase the sales revenue by 50% and then work all the cost of goods and everything out, then the contribution increases to 18,000. That is 71% increase. So 50% increase in sales results in 71% increase in contribution margin, which is good. And a similar computation, when we cut finance cost by 50%, everything else remaining the same, the contribution margin goes up by 21%. But when we try to control cost in production, okay, everything else the same, now if we cut the production cost by 20% and work everything out, and you see that the contribution increases by 114%, more than doubles the contribution. So controlling costs has a direct impact on the bottom line, and therefore that is, controlling the operations cost, the production cost, has a direct, significant, large impact on the bottom line, and therefore it is important that we analyze, study, and optimize the production function. So that's the reason why it is extremely important to study operations management. Now there are 10 strategic decisions in operations management. Okay, let's go over them one by one. Design of goods and services, what kind of product that we're going to produce to satisfy customer demand. And then how do we define quality in terms of customer expectations, and what are the processes that we're going to implement to achieve those quality goals. And what kind of production process and what production capacity we're going to install in our production process. And where are we going to locate this production process? That is, where are you going to locate the production facility, plant location? And how are we going to lay the production facility out, the internal layout of the production factory? And human resources and job design is the sixth strategic decision. Supply chain management. Okay, we talked about supply chain management just a minute ago. So setting up a supply, designing the supply chain, setting it up, and managing the supply chain. And inventory management, which is how much of the components and parts we need to order, how do we store, how do we optimize customer satisfaction, and so on. And scheduling, okay, when to produce, what to produce, in what quantities to produce. And maintenance of the facility, which is production facility, to make sure that the production facility and the capacities is available when we need those capacities. So these are the 10 strategic decisions. Okay, some of them are long term, like what kind of product we want to produce and what should be the plant capacity, where do we locate the plant, and how do we lay the plant out. These are long term decisions. So when we make a decision, implement it, then you cannot change that decision in a short period of time. Like Volkswagen located their plant in Chattanooga, 6 months down the line, they cannot simply pack up and go somewhere else. Once you make a commitment to a particular location, then you are committed to that location for a long period of time. So these decisions, designing goods, process and capacity, location, layout, these are long-term decisions. And there are some medium-term decisions, which are how do we implement managing quality and human resources and job design and supply chain implementation. These are medium to long-term. And there are short-term day-to-day decisions like inventory management, scheduling, and maintenance. We cannot cover all of these topics in one single course. So in this course, we're going to look at the day-to-day operations only, and that is short-term operations management decision making. So these are the topics that we'll be covering. So we'll start with project management in chapter 3. Then we will cover forecasting, which is the basis for all other decisions. Okay, that's chapter 4. Then managing quality is chapter 6 and supplement 6. And the first exam will cover these 3 topics and these chapters. And then in the second part of the semester, we'll cover inventory management, which is 12, 14, and 16, and scheduling, which is 13 and 15. So 12 to 16 will be in the second exam. So in the next video, we'll look at some more concepts about production in general.